Our speaker today, Steve Brown, is a leading expert on generative AI, autonomous AI assistance, digital transformation, the future of work, and how advances in AI will shape the future of education, business, and society. He draws upon decades of experience in artificial intelligence and high tech to advise companies on winning AI transformation strategies and speaks on the future of AI.
Yeah, you're going to recognize some of these companies. After a 25-year career at Intel, Steve co-founded Web3 company, the Providence Chain Network, then worked at DeepMind, which is Google's AI research lab in London, and is now an advisor to revolutionary AI company, Energetic AI. His clients include Nike, JP Morgan, Samsung, Comcast, Audi, PepsiCo, and Disney.
You're right, I did recognize a couple of those.
I thought so. I knew it. Please help me welcome, Darrell and I welcome to the stage, Steve Brown.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Nice to be back in Redmond. Nice to see you all again. I was on my way in the car this morning. My wife was driving me here about 10 o'clock this morning. I was looking at the beautiful mountains and the blue sky, and she was driving, so I got time to actually appreciate it and take it in a little bit. And as I was looking at them, I found myself thinking about how old, how ancient they were, and that they hadn't changed in millions of years. And what humans had been doing during that time, right? We were busy discovering fire and the wheel and agriculture and went through the Industrial Revolution. I was reflecting on that in the context of what I'm going to talk to you about today. We are about to go through a profound change for every business, for our society, and for humanity because of the stuff I'm going to tell you about today. And it all fits very nicely into the context of thinking about not having enough people and the future of work, because as you're going to see, artificial intelligence is going to be one of the things that will help us. It is a tool that you will all be able to use to help you figure out and complement the human capital that you have in your organizations going forward. So, I'm going to walk you through today talking about what this all means for all of us in this room, because it's going to affect every single one of you, not just in the way that you think about your companies, but in the way that you operate on a day-to-day basis. So we already had the who is this guy and why should I pay attention to what he says slide, but I've worked in high tech for a long time, started with a good head of hair, not so much anymore, it's all very shiny. Now I spend a lot of time with startups. I advise a couple of startups, Energetic and Jumpco. And I wrote a book since I was last here. So that's me. I know about AI stuff. That's all you really need to know. So what I want to try and take you through today is to ask and hopefully answer 3 questions for you. The first one is, why is AI suddenly such a big deal? You know, AI has been around a long time, but we all know that ChatGPT suddenly arrived and the world went crazy. So why is that? What's happened to make that happen? Secondly, what does AI transformation look like? You're all going to have to go through it, whether you like it or not. And what does that really look like? What does it mean? What are you going to have to think about? And finally, how do you get started? What are the steps? Some of you may have already begun on that journey. Some of you may not have yet. But what are the steps that you're going to need to take to get there? So that's the plan. So buckle up. I've got videos, I hope, of robots doing cool things. So let's hope that those all work as well. So Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google, a year ago he said, AI is going to impact every product across every company. And I agree with him, but I would go much further. I think it's going to affect every product across every company and also every business process, every role, and thus every person in this room and every person in your organization, without exception. Why is that? Well, things are changing. You've probably noticed over the last 15, 20 years, if you're old enough, that computing has changed. If you're old enough and were involved with computers in the 1970s, you might have programmed computers with cards with holes punched in them. And those holes, whether there was a hole or not, that was a 1 or a 0. You were programming it in binary. So on the left-hand side of this slide is a period of time when we talked to computers in a language that worked for them. Now, as we move across the slide through periods of talking with text, using graphical user interfaces, thank you Xerox PARC and Steve Jobs and Windows, now to touch interfaces, and now the primary language that we're going to use, the primary way we will communicate with computers is with natural human language. We can talk to them in human. That's why it's been so exciting. You'll be able to program computers, write software in human language. That's already, we're already pretty close to that now. So it's the new computing interface, and it means that computers now talk to us in our language instead of us having to learn how to talk to them in theirs. So that's one way of looking at the change that's come. If you step back a little further and sort of think about the perspective I had this morning as I'm looking at Batchelor and Sisters and Broken Top as I was coming here, we are approaching the dawning of a new age. And I don't say this lightly. You know, I don't want to flim-flam you and, oh, it's exciting. I think this is an inflection point for humanity. It's probably the reason that you all came to have lunch today, is because you sense that too. So, if a quick look through the Industrial Revolution, there was steam power, there was electricity, discovering how to harness electricity. These are general technologies that you can harness to do lots of different types of work for you. I dropped off here in an electric car today. You can use electricity to power the lights that are shining in my face right now, to run this PowerPoint presentation. Right? It's a very general purpose technology. Similarly, digital technology. Give us everything from e-commerce to Netflix and sit back and chill and email, right? All of that stuff happened in the digital revolution, the information revolution. We are now on the edge of the next big revolution. The intelligence era is upon us. What that means is when you have an era, it is when a seminal technology, steam, electricity, digital information, when those cost of those technologies starts to head down towards zero, and that they are general purpose, so you can use them to do lots of different things. We are in an era now where the cost of powerful intelligence is going to head down towards zero. What does that mean for your business, for our society, and for humanity? That's what we're going to get into. That's why this is such a big deal, because it is a technology you can use to educate kids better, to help scientists discover new cures, medicines, and you can also use it to complement your customer support organization, to strengthen your manufacturing, to transform your business. It is a very general purpose, powerful set of technologies. So that's why it's a big deal. One way of thinking about it, Michael Dell was at an event I was at earlier this week, and he put it this way. He said, we're moving from an era of calculation, so doing sums, and computation, running algorithms and programs, into one of cognition, where we are creating mechanical minds to help us think through problems, to help us get through our day, essentially. And there's no going back. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, we need to slow this down. This is too much for me. It's scary. How many of you are scared by this, by the way? How many of you are scared by AI? Okay, that's fine, that's fair. I'm a little bit too, and I live this stuff. But there's no putting this genie back in the bottle. AI is off to the races, and it is going to change everything that we do. Now, what kinds of things is it going to change? There is an urgent business transformation already underway across corporate America. If you look at a company like JP Morgan, they already have 1,200 AI scientists, machine learning experts, and data scientists all working on projects. They have 400 AI and machine learning projects already in production in their organization. So the big guys are already doing this stuff. The next tier is going to be right behind them. And what are you going to do? Well, there's two big areas that I think you can focus your time and attention. The first is in improving customer experience. How do you make it easier for your customers to interact with you? Can you create new intelligent products and services for them? Can you bolster your customer service and support organizations using artificial intelligence? Probably yes. And the companies that do that are going to be more competitive. Now, you're all in this room because you want to figure out, how do I create economic activity? How do I become more competitive as a business? This is the slide that shows you how to do that. Because it's going to give you market differentiation versus your customers, it's going to give you competitive advantage, and that's going to make your customers more satisfied and come back and spend more money with you. The second thing you can do is focus on improving employee experience. And actually, I'd probably start with employee experience and then customer experience afterwards. The potential here is to partner machine technology, artificial intelligence, with your employees, and together create a workforce that is able to do more. There are opportunities here to boost productivity by 20% pretty easily, and perhaps up to as much as 100% for all your employees. Now think about it. A company that embraces this technology and boosts their productivity by, let's say, 20%, are they going to do better or worse than the competition who doesn't embrace this technology? It's pretty straightforward. The other thing that I want you to think about is, if you're trying to attract talent, so you're trying to attract the people coming out of schools and colleges in 2027, are they going to want to work for an organization that has embraced all of these tools so that they're supported by great new AI technology that helps them to do more, that helps them to not do the stuff they don't want to do? How many of you have parts of your job that you find really boring, repetitive, and you really wouldn't rather do? I certainly do. Yeah. AI is going to take that off your hands and let you focus on the stuff that you like to do. So do you think they're going to want to work for a company that's invested in all this stuff so they have a really great workforce and feel supported? Or do you think they're going to want to work for a company that has not? So for access to the best talent, this is also a great differentiator for every business to lean into this and lean into it hard. So that's why this urgent transformation is underway. Peter Diamandis, who's an entrepreneur and big thinker in these sorts of things, said there are going to be two types of companies at the end of the decade. Those that are fully utilizing AI and those that are out of business. Because if you can boost your productivity by 100% over your competition, eventually you just cannot be competitive. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of sort of background on AI, the different flavors of it and so on. So first of all, you need to know that there are three different strengths of AI. There's narrow intelligence, which is an AI that's good at doing one thing. Really good at doing one thing. Might be filtering the spam in your email. You use AI every day, you just don't know it. Filtering your email spam, playing chess with you, figuring out what to recommend for you to watch on Hulu. Right? AI is in the background doing these things all the time. But the AI recommender for Hulu cannot play chess or filter spam. So narrow intelligence is really good at doing one thing. General intelligence is a type of AI that is able to do anything. Anything that a human can do. That's how we're defining general intelligence. It's able to learn and apply knowledge from one domain to another domain. And then beyond that is superintelligence. Now, superintelligence could be 1% more intelligent than a human, or it could be 1,000 times more intelligent than a human. But those are the three strengths of AI. And you'll see that I've drawn this sort of precipice in the middle here. We've got narrow intelligence down. Check. Where we're heading next is general intelligence, and beyond that, superintelligence. So how are we doing? This is one of the ways that the industry is thinking about sort of grading our progress. So for narrow intelligence, which we've got down, we're already at superhuman levels of performance. So, if you look at this chart and you can see the numbers at the back, I'm sorry, they're maybe a little small with these screens here, but the numbers there, 50, 90, 99, 100, that's saying where AI is in the percentile versus human performance. So on the right-hand side of the chart, superhuman level is better than any human alive. Example there is AlphaFold. Figuring out the structure of a protein helps you decide how to design drugs to interact with that protein and fix disease states in the body. It's a very important piece of medical research. It used to take a PhD about 5 years of their time to figure out the structure of one protein. AlphaFold can do a protein in about a minute. So, that's what we're talking about with superhuman levels of performance. Let's talk now about artificial general intelligence. We're at level 1, probably. Kind of training wheels, baby, AGI. And how many of you have tried ChatGPT or something like it? Just by a show of hands. Okay, so many of you have tried it already. So that's what we're talking about. You can't rely on the answers it gives you all the time, but it's pretty impressive what it can do. So that's this level 1 emerging capability of artificial general intelligence. But there is a huge chasm that we have to cross to start getting improvement in that and heading our way towards ASI, artificial superintelligence. We're going to need to make it much more factual so it doesn't hallucinate and tell us lies. We're going to have to make sure that it understands a bit more about the world, that it can learn much more rapidly. You have to train AI with sometimes tens of thousands or millions of examples before it can learn something. Think about a toddler. They need to see a car just a few times before they can see another car they had never seen before, different color, different shape, and go, that's a car, right? So there's a lot of technology breakthroughs that still have to come. We may see some coming later this year. We may see some more significant ones in 2025. The question is, when do we get across that chasm and start on this race towards general intelligence? When I talk to smart people in the industry, when are we going to get to artificial general intelligence? I get a range of answers. The range goes from 2 years from now to never. And it's somewhere in between those two, okay? The smart money is on around the end of this decade. 2028, maybe 2029. So within 5 years, you could have artificial general intelligence, intelligence that is smart as any human in this room, able to do anything that anybody in this room can do, available as a service. How would that change your business? So the road there, the pathway to this, is a sort of a nice simplified way of thinking about this. What's coming in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years? Today, we're at this chatbot level. A chatbot is where you communicate with an AI, it thinks a bit, and then it comes back to you. And then it waits. It doesn't do anything. Right? It's sort of a turn-by-turn conversation. Make me an image. Back comes an image. Then it sits there. Make me another image. Answer my question. We are the next step in this, likely to come second half of this year, certainly next year, is the rise of what's called autonomous agents. These are AI assistants that you can assign a task and say, go away and do this. If you need to research it, if you need to go buy some resources, if you need to plan, maybe it's something like it's a task they have to do over time. Now, I want you to research and write 10 blogs on whatever my business is doing and post them to social media over the next 10 weeks. Done. That's an AI assistant. So they're going to get more sophisticated than that, but that's what we're talking about. It's something where you can sort of offload tasks to an assistant. Then we'll get to autonomous, artificial general intelligence, and you'll have me back because that's going to change everything. All right, so that's sort of the pathway that we're on, and there's no getting off. The freight train is coming right at us all, and you all need to step up and figure out, how am I going to embrace this so I don't get run over? I know it's a little sobering to put it in those terms, but that's what every company in America is facing, every company in the world ultimately is facing. How do I get on this train and ride it to success and not get run over? So hopefully I've explained why it's a big deal. And this is not going to stop. So you have no choice here. I'm sorry. So no choice. So what does AI transformation look like? Well, first of all, I'll just explain quickly what AI is and how it's different than traditional computing. Traditional computers, you write a program, you have inputs and outputs. Input says, I press Control S, the file saves. I hit this button on the joystick, the spaceship goes to the left, right? It's programmatic, and you decide what's going to happen based on inputs and outputs. So that's how programs work. Models work by being trained with data. So they're exposed to lots and lots of examples. A neural network then learns from those examples and is able to then take an input, something it's never seen before, and give an appropriate output and response. It's just a different way of creating capabilities, but what it enables you to do is to solve problems that we don't know how to solve ourselves. We don't know how to write a program to take text in and spit images out, but we can train a model to do that by showing it lots of examples. So that's the difference here. I find it's useful. I mean, you can slice and dice the market many different ways. I found this is useful for my clients to help them think about the different flavors of AI in terms of what you can do with them. So first of all, there's sensing AIs that essentially allow you to input to a computer in a way that's natural. So it's what machine vision is, natural language processing, so it can hear what we're saying. It's the ability to understand the world around it. Secondly, there's optimizing AIs. These have been around for a long time. I'll give you an example in a minute. Just helps you to optimize the flow of your business, to help you optimize inventory levels and so on. And then finally, the one that everybody's excited about, generative AI. The ability to create output. So you can think about it sort of input, processing, output, if you were a computer guy back in the day. So here's an example of a sensing AI. There's no audio on these videos, so we're good. So you can see here, it's quite sophisticated sensing. It's not only spotting where the human is, but that human is being naughty. They're unsafe behavior, unsafe lifting posture, missing a harness. Oh, there's a spill detected. Whoopsie, got to clean it up. Right? It's quite a sophisticated camera system that can understand what is happening in an environment. So that's an example of AI sensing. An example of AI optimization. FedEx uses AIs to figure out where their trucks should go. Before they started using Routific, this is an example from the Central Valley in California, sort of the Redmond Bend of California, if you like. They used to have 20 delivery trucks. And by embracing Routific, they were able to optimize the routing of their trucks, and they now need 5 less trucks. So they're able to save 13% on their expenses and 17% on the gas that they use. So it's also not just economically better, but environmentally better. So there's an example of an optimization AI. So, of those 3 flavors, the 2 on the left are the ones that have been around for 10 or 15 years. There's nothing particularly new there, and they're what's called a discriminative AI. They're able to sort of sort into categories. So these are likely spam emails. These are likely emails from mom and the bank and whatever it might be. These are Netflix shows that Bob is most likely interested in. These are the ones that Bob's not likely to be interested in. If your name's not Bob, just change the name for Bob for your name, and then that will work for you. Okay. Are there any Bobs here? Any Bobs? No Bobs? I picked, there's no Bobs in the room? That was for you, Bob. Oh, well. I don't know why I picked Bob, it just came to mind. All right, so traditional AI. What's exciting is this generative AI, which is able to create content for the first time, whether that is text, images, videos, software. These things program quite well. About half of the code that is checked into an online website called GitHub, software repository, half of the code today is written by AI. Let that sink in. Right. So you can use this generative AI technology to translate languages, to summarize documents, to do all kinds of really useful work that makes our lives easier. Now, probably the best way to bring this to life for you, is there some wood here? Let me just... Okay, are you ready back there? There's a lot of panic in the back of the room earlier. We're going to run a video now, and hopefully it's got a soundtrack. So I'm mentioning the soundtrack because I thought, well, how do I show generative AI audio? Well, hopefully accompanying this video is a soundtrack of a Coldplay song, Viva la Vida. But it is a Coldplay song sung by Frank Sinatra, who died almost exactly to the day, 10 years before Viva la Vida was in the charts. So I bring you, hopefully, artificial intelligence, Frank Sinatra, with a short video showing you the types of things that are already possible with generative intelligence.
I used to rule the world. Seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I asleep alone. The streets I used to own. I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes, listen as the crowd would sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. 1 minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered my castle stand upon pillars of salt, the pillars of sand. Here Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Beat my mirror, my sword, my shield, my nation a reason of power and fear. For some reason I can't explain, but once you've gone, there was never an honest word, and that was when I ruled the world. It was the wicked and wild wind blew down the doors to let me in, shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I'd become. Revolutionaries, they wait for my head on the silver plate, just a puppet on a lonely string. Well, who would ever want to be king?
What do you think? So that's now. This is the worst AI is ever going to be. It is going to get better and better, and possibly in an exponential manner. So buckle up. So another example of AI and generating things. In partnership with engineers, AI is able to help you create new designs. On the left-hand side of the slide here, you see a weird-looking structure. That is the bones, the inside of the bulkhead of an Airbus A320. Next time you fly on an A320, because you probably don't want to fly on a MAX. No one from Boeing here, right? I flew on a MAX this week. Put my belt on really tight. So it's very important. Weight matters on planes. United Airlines did the calculations. If every one of their passengers took Ozempic and lost 10 pounds, they would save $80 million a year in fuel costs alone. So weight matters on a plane, right? So getting the lightest weight bulkhead that has the physical strength properties for tension and all of the things they need sort of engineering-wise is important. So it was generated in partnership with Autodesk. They used generative design to create hundreds of thousands of options, and then they picked the one that was best for physical strength, weight, and so on. So similarly, on the right-hand side, this is a canopy, a wooden canopy, one of the biggest wooden structures in the world, in Seville, in Spain. And I've been, it's beautiful. And they had to optimize it for shade at certain times of the day, weight, physical strength, for airflow, and so on. And so it's all partly designed by AI. So if you're not using generative design and you have an engineering company, that may be something you really want to look at. So what does AI innovation look like? What are the different things you might do? Well, first of all, you can create AI-powered products. That may not be something that's relevant to your business, but it may be. So here's an example. Top left, that's a pair of bird-watching glasses from Swarovski. They came out at CES this year, the Consumer Electronics Show. They're $4,500, but if you see a bird and you don't know what species it is, you press the button and it tells you. Not worth $4,500 to me, but it might be to you. So you can put AI into your product to spice it up and give it new capabilities. On the bottom left there, I'm not going to talk about all of these, but on the bottom left is a product called the Rabbit R1. It's a little device that you can talk to, and it can see things. So it has a camera in it. You can point it at, you can say, get me an Uber, order me a pizza, and it will just take care of it all for you. Now, eventually that will just become an app on your phone, but it's got some interesting use cases, like you can point it at a Nest thermostat. If you've ever tried to wire one of those and get it right, it's not easy. So you can have it, you can just do things like point it at the Nest thermostat, say, how's my wiring? And it will tell you where you got it wrong and guide you on how to fix it and communicate with you in human language. So it's pretty interesting products that are coming. So you could turbocharge your product line with intelligence, with AI. You might want to improve your customer service using AI. Think about the travel booking experience today. It's largely a clicking and filtering experience. Of the 100,000 flights that are available, which is the right one for me? It's a filtering experience. It's not very exciting, right? We've all booked flights, not very exciting. Contrast that with an AI assistant, some excitement in the back there, wow. Just okay. An AI assistant, perhaps an AI-generated avatar you can talk to, who gets to know you over time, knows your preferences, is able to go and read every review for every hotel, understand what your preferences are, and make recommendations to you with pros and cons, create you a video brochure showing you the options. Would you prefer to go with that company or the one that's not made any investments in AI? It gives you the contrast, right? Why you have no choice. But I think the main thing people are going to use AI for, at least in the shorter term, is to boost their productivity. And when you have labor shortages facing you, this is a great place to start, right? So operational AI, I already sort of explained that, helping you to make good predictions about the inventory levels you might need, helping to automate some tasks, optimizing your operations. You're also, the tools that people are using, all the tools manufacturers, whether it's Microsoft Office or Adobe products, Salesforce, all of these types of products, they're all turbocharging themselves with AI-based features. So you kind of get them naturally, but you want to embrace those as quickly as possible and learn how to use them. Train your workforce how to get the most out of them so they can boost their productivity. I'm going to give you some examples of productivity boosts in a little bit. Next thing is start looking for AI assistants that are going to be relevant to what you do. And there are going to be lots of them, lots of different types of AI assistants. Anybody recognize who that is in the little circle on the screen? Shout it out. Tony Stark? Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, his assistant, of course, famously Jarvis. That's not a picture of Robert Downey Jr. It's AI generated, as all the images in this presentation are. None of them are real photographs. So yes, look for those assistants to offload your workers from tasks they don't want to do because they're boring and repetitive or that are dangerous perhaps, and have them focus on the things that they do want to do and that are more value added, and then use AI to elevate their capabilities, to make them superhuman in their abilities. We'll talk about that more in a moment. And then there's going to be some automation stuff too. Role automation and task automation, and some physical automation. Yes, we will have sexy robot videos shortly. Anybody have a guess? When you're thinking about your workers and the things that are particularly office workers, 32. Any guesses on what 32 could have to do with office workers? Shout it out. Any? Emails. 32 emails a day, perhaps? Yeah? Any guesses? Any other guesses? I'll tell you. It's easier if I just tell you, isn't it easier? Yeah. 32 days. 32 days is the time the average American office worker spends looking through documents, Word documents, spreadsheets, that sort of thing, trying to find the data they need to do their jobs. That's 13% of their day wasted. AI can help with that. And there's a technology that I think is really powerful that I was at Intel's event this week, the Intel Vision event. They invited me to critique what they were doing. And they were talking about this technology a lot. It's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. If you've used any of these chatbots, you know that they can tell fibs once in a while. They're not necessarily reliable. And it's just that these models are trained, they're called large language models. They're trained with lots of data, all sucked out of the internet. And of course, we know the internet is a cesspool of viciousness and lies. So that's why they become that way. AI is ultimately just a reflection of who we are. That they're a mirror that we hold up to ourselves. So if AI is mean and vicious, it's because that's kind of who we are as a species. Anyway, that's a whole aside. Let's get to this slide. This is the only box diagram slide I'm going to show you today. Don't be overwhelmed by it. I'm not expecting you to build this. But this is kind of explaining how this works. What RAG does is it allows you to unlock the data that you have inside your company and start to use it in new and productive ways. So you use what's called a vector database. Vectors are the way that information is stored so that large language models like ChatGPT and so on can understand them. So it is a way of taking your corporate documents, it could be your policies and procedures, it could be your customer information, your product information, it could be videos taken on your production line so you can analyze failures on your production line. It could be security videos, it could be images that you take of your products. All of it can be ingested into these AIs and done in a secure way. That's the big advantage of this RAG approach. It can be done in a secure way that protects and keeps your data safe so no one else can get it. And what it enables you to do is things like create what's called an enterprise intelligence agent. Imagine your employees not having to waste the time picking up the phone to call HR. I'm thinking about taking a leave. What are the rules about that? Just type into the chatbot and it will know the answer because it's read all of your HR policies and procedures. Intel was talking about an example that they have in their factories. They have an AI which has been trained using this approach with all the failure videos that they have when things go wrong in their factories, logged with all the information about what went wrong and how they fixed it. So now, when a worker has a problem, they type in, here's the problem we've got. The AI looks at some pictures if it needs to. It looks at this database and it comes back and says, hey, try this, this, and this. And sometimes it can even say, you know what, I'm going to do this and this automatically for you. Let's see if that fixes it. Oh, that fixed it. Imagine how much time that is saving those workers. So this is a technology that's incredibly powerful. Not only can you use it to help your workers, you can use it to create new customer experiences. If they want to know information about your products, your services, if they have technical support questions, you can take all of your technical support data and turn that into a chatbot that can answer their questions for them. This is the power of this technology. There'll be a test at the end. Remember it, retrieval augmented generation. You don't have to remember it. But this is what you can ask your IT departments to go look at. Where we're heading, I mentioned before, is AI assistants that can help particular job roles to get things done. Here's an example of legal assistants, and these are being deployed in legal offices and companies around the world. They are very successful. They do a great job. And they enable lawyers to essentially have a paralegal in a box and to treat this AI as if it's a little paralegal. You can speak to it in natural language. You can ask it questions. You can say, hey, look at this contract. Does it have provision for Oregon employment law in it? Oh, it doesn't? Can you add that? Done. Imagine how much time that saves the legal people in your organization. If you want to be able to summarize a deposition, there's a company based here in Oregon. That's a QR code for that company called CaseMark. And they will take a whole deposition and then summarize what's in it. And they do it from a legal perspective. So it's not just doing summarization, it's doing a special technique to make sure that all of the legally relevant things are in there. So as we go through this, there's going to be QR codes. So anything that's interesting to you, just snap it and it'll take you a link to that particular company. Here's one I really like, Hire Logic. It's an assistant to help you when you're interviewing new people. So you can either have Hire Logic connect into a Zoom call, you can have a phone on the desk while you're talking to somebody. It listens into the conversation. Not only does it create a transcript of the entire interview with a summary of that transcript, so you can focus on communicating with this person and checking them out. You're not taking notes all the time. It also assesses the interviewee against whatever parameters you've said you're interviewing for and creates you a sort of a grading on their skills, on how well they did in the interview. It also gives you feedback as an interviewer on whether you covered all the things you said you wanted to cover with the candidate. So it's a really interesting application of AI as an assistant. I'm just trying to give you a flavor of what's possible today so you can extrapolate in your minds what's going to be possible tomorrow. Khan Migo is from the Khan Academy. If you have kids who are struggling with math, history, English, whatever it might be, they have an assistant which uses the Socratic method of teaching. So it's not going to give your kid an answer. It's going to help them by asking them questions to help them figure it out themselves. Really powerful tool. I think it's like $4 a month, so it won't break the bank. But really interesting. So they have a tutor. Now wind that forward. We're going to have, some people are going to have their jobs displaced by AI. No question. Jobs have always been displaced by new technology. We're going to have to reskill and upskill to help people continue to be productive in the workplace. Imagine having an AI tutor in your pocket for everybody on Earth to help them learn whatever they want to learn. This is the beginnings of that. They're also creating career coaches to help kids figure out what they want to do with their lives. And they also have a teaching aid piece to it. So it's helping the teachers to do lesson planning to help really bring some of these pieces of information to life for their kids. So really powerful tool. Is it time for robots? Should I do the robot? No, I shouldn't. How many of you have physical companies that do physical stuff? Manufacturing, agriculture, those sorts of things. Have warehouses. Okay. So this is going to be more for you. But it's really fun for the rest of us, because who doesn't like robots? Robots have come an awful long way. I didn't used to talk much about robots in my presentations because I just thought we were so far away from where they could do really useful work. You see on the left there, it's Shaky from the 1970s. He was sort of, well, not a very good robot, not very useful. Asimo came out, we're all, look, he can walk, isn't it cute? And now we have robots like Figure. I'm going to show you a video now so you can see what they look like. Incredible capabilities. You're going to be blown away by what you see. I always feel like those robots walk like they need to go to the bathroom really bad. Makes me laugh every time. So, robots are changing, and they're useful for doing lots of different things. You want them in environments where things are dangerous, you want them in environments where there's repetitive, boring work, or you want them in environments where you just can't get enough people. So there's all sorts of interesting robots, and there's even exoskeletons out there that help workers to be stronger and not hurt themselves. Boston Dynamics in the middle there, their most popular robot is Spot, which is the one that looked like a dog you saw earlier. People are using that for inspections. So to wander around a facility, take pictures, take measurements, and just do patrols around facilities. So great for security, for inspections. People are using them in public utilities to check out and make readings and those sorts of things. So some major advances coming. These are the ones that I think are the most interesting, these 5. Agility Robotics here in Oregon. They have their robots on trial in Amazon warehouses today. Boston Dynamics is doing pretty well, but the star of the show to me, Figure and Sanctuary, the Phoenix robot from Sanctuary in Canada. Figure, they have signed a deal with BMW. They're going to be trialing their robots on the manufacturing line in the South Carolina plant. Phoenix is the one you saw doing delicate fine-grained movements, doing soldering, closing up the bag, picking fruit. It's pretty impressive dexterity that it has. But let's focus a little bit on Figure. It can carry a 20-kilo payload. It's got a 5-hour battery life. Thankfully, it can't, if you run away, it can't chase you. 2.7 miles an hour top speed. I think they're probably going to keep them that way so we don't have Terminator nightmares. And the good thing is you can show it how to do something. You saw it put in the pod, in the coffee pot. They didn't tell it, move your arm up, move it forward, pick it. They just showed it a few examples of a human doing it. It watched, and then it learned to do it itself. That's the huge breakthrough. And you can talk to it in natural language. I'm going to show you another video of Figure now, where you see someone talking and communicating with it, and hear the level of intelligence that these robots have, because they now have these large language models built into them. So they're partnering with OpenAI to make that happen. I also want you to think and process this quote from their founder and CEO. This guy is, he has a background in a number of serial startups. He's a serious thinker. And his quote here is, "I think the world will eventually need about 10 billion humanoid robots from all the various manufacturers." There's 8 billion of us on the planet, humans, at the moment. But think about the opportunities here in manufacturing, in agriculture, ultimately, in the home. How many of us want to have a home butler? Yes, please. I want to come home at night and a martini is already shaked and ready for me to go. I'm just going to say it. So let me show you a little video of Figure so you can see this is what it can do today, okay? This is not science fiction. This is not special effects. This is a robot today.
Hey, Figure One, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great, can I have something to eat?
Sure thing. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great, can you put them there?
Of course.
So I edited that a bit for time, but you get the feel. It's gone very quiet in here. It's pretty astonishing. I mean, I live and breathe in this business. I'm an AI futurist. Sometimes things surprise me, and sometimes things go even faster than I think they're going to. This is one example. This is a company to watch. You can't invest in them yet, but as soon as you can, I'm going to anyway. We were talking earlier with the Damon and Steve show. There was a conversation about the need, demographics, and the need to attract talent. And one of the ways that you can make the most of the talent you're able to get is to supplement them, to augment them, to elevate them so that they're more productive by partnering them with technology. And I think the immediate future of work is this notion of human-machine teaming. Humans and machines working side by side. What do I mean by that? Every business in the world now has to go through the process I'm going to show you right now, which is to look at every one of their major business processes, break it down into the tasks, and then ask the tough question, based on the state of the art of technology today, and maybe where it's going in the next 6 to 12 months, which of those tasks is best done by a human? Which is best done by a robot, which is best done by an AI, and which is best done by an AI and a human working really closely together. And that's the effort. Every company, every organization is going to have to go through that effort. Because that's how you figure out how to boost your productivity, how to deliver value to your customers in the most effective, efficient, powerful way possible. Let me give you a worked example of that. Imagine a sales organization. You may have one. Imagine a sales organization where the salesperson has many, many customers and many different products to try and sell. Figuring out, who do I call today? What did we last speak about? What products should I try and push for them? is the pre-work that you have to do. AI can do that. It can summarize who are the people we should call based on maybe looking at all the news on the internet, which customers have had some events that maybe mean it's time to pick up the phone. And then figure out, okay, what's my call list for the day? To summarize what happened in the last call that they had so they can remember, oh yeah, we talked about the kids going camping. And then to say, here's the products you probably want to promote to that particular customer. The human then does the part that humans are always going to be best at. Pick up the phone, establish rapport. Hey, Bob. Bob again. Hey, Bob, how you been? How was the camping trip? Well, probably not, because they may not have talked for a while, but you know what I mean. And then they start to say, hey, well, I've got these things I want to tell you about. Have you got a few minutes? They start talking and making the pitch. The AI listens in on the conversations. And specifically, they're listening from objections from the customer. Oh, no, I don't need that right now. Or, yeah, that's not quite right for me because this. And the AI on the screen in front of the salesperson will then suggest, here's other avenues you might want to try. Here's a way you might overcome that objection. Here are different products you might want to pitch and why. So they suggest alternative products and strategies. The human seller then pivots as needed, hopefully closes the deal, closes the sale, says goodbye. And then the AI steps in again and prepares a summary of the conversation, an email they can send to Bob to say, here's what we talked about, here's some links that you might find useful, here's the products we talked about. The salesperson quickly review that, yep, looks good, done. Does that sound a bit made up? Is it too made up for this venue? Yeah, this is a real example from a real company that's out there. So this is where technology can be. And this is the example, and it's a very simple example, but this is the process I recommend you go through to help you think about how do you bring these technologies into your workflows. Because each of these has different strengths and weaknesses. Thankfully, more in the red column for now. But taking advantage of all of these to make sure that you have the most productive workforce, the most efficient workforce, is going to help you to remain competitive in the business. So I think the future is this world of assistance where humans and machines are working closely side by side. And you've got some examples of where I think those are going to first show up. You already have coding assistants. There are already assistants to help writers and so on. So early evidence to back all this stuff up. A test is at MIT. They've set a bunch of people some tests to try and create content and write business plans. And they paired them with ChatGPT, actually. And what they found was that the people who had access to ChatGPT were 40% more productive. And interestingly, the quality of their output was also 20% better. That's just using a technology from last year. Here's another example that was cited in a recent Harvard Business Review. It's a case study of 1,500 customer support agents at a major software company. And what they found was by pairing, not by replacing the humans, but by giving them an agent that listened in on conversations and helped prompt them with information that was relevant at the time, they were able to resolve more issues, 15% more issues per hour. Importantly, for the less experienced agents, their performance improved 35%. They were able to handle more simultaneous chats. Their chat time went down. Agent turnover in the company, that was a real problem, went down. People were happier at their work. Expressions of frustration from customers went down, and customer satisfaction went up, all by implementing the simple AI system. And here's one about creativity. Some MBA students, Wharton MBA students, were pitched against ChatGPT-4. They asked them to come up with business ideas, generate an idea for a new product or service appealing to college students that could be made available for $50 or less. They took the ideas from ChatGPT, they took the ideas from the Wharton MBA students, they mixed them up and had them judged by a set of human judges who didn't know which one came from where. The top 40, of the top 40, 35 of them were from the AI. Only 5 were from the Wharton MBA students. So these are powerful technologies that can help your workers get their jobs done more effectively. And the opportunity here is this is going to help your more junior workers more. So if you're in a position where you've got less experienced people in your company, this is going to elevate their performance more than the people who've been around a while and have the experience, which makes sense, right? But this is a huge opportunity. There are a couple of headlines of news stories that I think are really relevant, and that I think are two ideas I want you to walk away with today. Firstly, it's that AI isn't going to replace your job, but someone using AI probably will. So you need to embrace AI personally, and you need to encourage the people who work in your organizations to do the same. And that talking to AI might be the most important skill of this century, learning how to get the most out of these AI tools. So how do you get started on all of this? Well, firstly, you need to get your organizations ready for this. You need to build a change-ready culture. I think you're going to go through more change in the next 5 to 10 years than you have experienced in the last 50. It's going to feel like a roller coaster ride, whirlwind, nuclear explosion, all combined together. So you have to lead your teams and help them through that change and get them excited about it. So you need to build a culture of curiosity, get people interested to learn more about this stuff, to not feel threatened by it. Help explain the ethos of we're going to elevate your job and make it more fun for you and not try and use it to just replace you. And get people into this space of possibility thinking, asking questions like, how could we ... using these new tools? Secondly, think about your data. What data do you have in your company? What state is that data in? How accessible is it? How do you clean it up and organize it? And how can you use it using that RAG technology I talked to you about? To unlock that data and create insights, to create abilities for your customers, create new abilities for your employees, so that you're unlocking that data and making the absolute most of it. That is going to be a big task for corporate America in the next 3 to 5 years. And use it to elevate your talent. Help them to get superpowers so they can do more, boost their productivity, and most importantly, be happier at work. This is going to boost job satisfaction and productivity at the same time. And then think about how do you elevate your customer experiences with new products, new services, better customer support, whatever it might be. Think about all the touch points you have with your customers and how you can use these technologies to improve them. And maybe even create new businesses and new revenue streams for your company. And I'd encourage you not to walk out of here and think, I better have the IT department look at this, because this is their job. A transformation of this magnitude is everybody's responsibility in the organization, starting from the top on down. You're all going to have to own this. You're all going to have to work together. This is not something that the IT department does and they come back and declare victory in 2 years. This is an ongoing process over the next decade or two, and you're all along for the ride. So what can you do personally on this journey? First thing I'd encourage you, be curious. You came along here today, so you're already curious. Well done. But keep it up. Be curious, learn about this stuff as much as you can. So try new tools. If you haven't tried it yet, try Perplexity. It's a good place to start. It is a replacement for Google in that you don't just type something and then get the classic 10 blue links. This is going to be a back and forth conversation, and it is up to date on the latest information. I was researching my car, what car I wanted to buy. I used Perplexity, and it was incredibly helpful. It read car and driver and all the reports from Edmunds, and it put them all together and told me what I should buy. It's fantastic. So if you haven't tried Perplexity, there's a QR code for it there. And thirdly, make time on your calendar for this. Make time to learn. I spend a lot of my time learning because it's my job, but it's now all of your jobs to know something about AI and what you can do with it. If it's helpful, I just started an AI newsletter about, 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it's free. You can sign up. It's weekly, so it won't overwhelm your inbox. If you want to grab a copy of it, you can get the QR code, or you just go to, it's called Synthetic. I thought it was a fun name. You go to synthetic.stevebrown.ai, and you can sign up easily. So I hope you will enjoy that. Everybody's taken their pictures. Is still doing it? Okay. All good? I'll leave it up another second. So AI newsletter, I hope is good. I try and make it sort of businessy focused, so business leaders will enjoy reading it. It's not very technical. It's got videos in it. I try to make it really something that everybody can get something out of. So the question I want to leave you with is, what are you going to do next? How are you going to elevate your organization, whatever kind of company it might be, using AI? The opportunity is gigantic. There are challenges involved. It will be a bumpy road. But it'll be the most important thing that you do for your company in the future. If I can ever be of help to you, that's how you can find me. I wrote a book. Last time I was here talking to Reddy, I was writing this book. I didn't say, but I was writing a book. And that's it. So if you want to get a copy of my book, that's also the URL. So my final closing thought for you. As I started out saying, this is a profound change for humanity, for society. I didn't get into the societal stuff in the name of time, but it is a profound change coming for your organizations, whatever type of company you have. I encourage you to embrace it and enjoy the ride. Thank you for your time and attention.
Well, okay. I personally feel all sorts of emotions about that whole thing. But thank you so much, Steve. Very informative. We're going to take the opportunity now. There's some microphones being passed around the audience. If you have some questions for Steve, we've got about 10 minutes or so to do so. I also think I have so many questions, but if you could get your hand on a figure and then send it my way, that sounds great.
Back rubs and martinis, yeah.
Oh, yeah, please. Okay, so anybody want to start off with the first question? Oh, Kyle Frick. I'll call you out anytime,
Thank
Kyle.
you for the presentation. That was really great. So are there any constraints on the growth of AI? And I'm thinking like either computing or power grids or rare earth minerals, or what are the things that you see that are going to be, challenging that is question one.
Yep.
And then question two would be, what do you see as the biggest potential negative impact or unintended consequence?
Okay, two huge questions. So the first one, what will constrain AI? Some of it was the technological breakthroughs are going to jump across that chasm. So that may be something that happens literally in the next 4 months. It may be something that we can never do, and nobody knows. Even the AI researchers in the labs that I talk to, they're still, the jury's out. So there's that part. But the biggest constraints are on building the infrastructure. Today, about 4% of the world's energy goes to information technology. So data centers, plenty around here in Central Oregon because of the hydropower. And NVIDIA is the darling of the AI industry for hardware. They make chips that are used in these data centers. They cost $40,000 each, and people cannot get enough of them. They are out of stock. All the big companies are fighting each other to get them. Intel's coming in behind with their chips. They're also constrained on availability. So it's going to take a lot to build out all the data centers we need to have AI available to everybody at scale. Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, thinks we need to invest $7 trillion in just building the factories we need to make the chips. Just to contrast that, the entire semiconductor industry globally, their revenues annually are about 560 billion. So you're talking about more than 10 times that, just an investment needed to get the capacity to make the chips. Michael Dell thinks that we need 100 times the number of data centers that we have today. So if the data centers today are consuming 4% of global energy or US energy, that means we need 400% of energy to go to AI data centers in the future. That's not sustainable. If you sign up for Synthetic, the issue that went out today, there's an estimate that just by 2030, the growth in AI data centers could mean 25% of US energy is being sucked by these machines. So we may get to the point where we have to choose, do you want electric vehicles or AI? Can't have both. So we may need something, back in 1936, there was the Rural Electrification Act, which made sure that rural America was connected to the grid. Thankfully, we did that because it set America up to be ready to fight in World War II, arguably. So we may need a Rural Electrification Act or something of that scale and equivalence to invest in generation capabilities to make sure that we can have EVs and AIs that give us the competitive edge on the global stage. I say we. I know I have an outrageous British accent, but I have been an American citizen since 2008, so we. So I think our biggest challenges is building out the capacity and energy. Now, the other question you asked, which is what's the biggest thing I'm worried about? I anticipated this question, so ta-da. Because I get asked this question maybe all the time. It's a good question, right? It's the one that we're all thinking about. Should I be afraid of this stuff? Should I run, or should I embrace it? Are you a doomer or a zoomer? I am neither. I'm sort of in between. We need to think about how do we use AI so that we can empower as many people as possible in really constructive, positive ways. And as we move towards AGI, general intelligence, how do we make sure that is used responsibly, that we use it to, there's probably somebody in this room who will have their life saved by a drug that was designed by an AI. If not you, then one of your precious children. So we need this stuff. The question is, what am I most afraid of? AI is not going to kill us. Terminators are not going to come and kill us all. Thank you, James Cameron. Great movie. Loved it. Not real. Don't be worried about that. What you should be worried about is AI making us kill each other. Because social media already made us hate each other and become tribal. Go back to the tribal nature that we had before we discovered agrarian societies. AI turbocharges that. Disinformation, misinformation at scale. You want to do two things to help your families? These are the two things. One, teach your kids critical thinking skills, because they will not be able to always believe what they see and hear. So think through things critically. Don't watch Fox News, don't watch MSNBC. Learn to think for yourself. Second thing to do, there is going to be a spike in ransomware attacks that is coming to you potentially. You're going to get a phone call from your child, panicked. They've got me, Mom. They're going to kill me. Put some money in this bank account, or they're going to start sending you my fingers. It's going to sound like her. You're going to be able to talk to her, and you're going to put that money in the account. You need to have a conversation with your family tonight and have words that only you know to use. So if that happens to you, you can ask the question and know, is that real or not? So that's the other thing I would offer. So great question. Allowed me to give you an answer. So I want to close that answering that question by asking this question for you. Which are you more afraid of? A world with artificial general intelligence in it, or a world without artificial general intelligence in it? We've done a pretty good job of screwing up the planet and society, and there are a lot of ills that we face as a group of 8 billion people. I'm actually more worried about a world where we don't have powerful machines to help us solve the messes we have made, to help us advance medical science, material science, to help us understand the world better, to help us fix climate change. It is going to be an incredible, powerful tool that we can all use. So it was a long answer to your question, but
it was so good, though. We have time for one more.
Okay.
One more question.
I'll make it a shorter answer this time.
I've got one over here. Did I steal someone's thunder? Quick question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
For those of us in the financial services world, wire fraud, digital fraud is rampant. There's humans behind that, the bad actors. How can AI help those institutions protect against those bad actors, and how is AI being used to help bad actors penetrate the security that we have within our systems?
I think I'll give you a very short, simple answer. There's an arms race that's about to happen in cybersecurity. with bad actors using AI to find more and more threat surfaces, attack surfaces, and more sophisticated phishing, spoofing, more sophisticated network attacks, denial of service attacks, those sorts of things. And cybersecurity tools, on the other side, are embracing AI to detect those and mitigate them more quickly. So I think without boring the rest of the audience on all the detail of cybersecurity, it's going to be this battle. So make sure you're engaging cybersecurity tool vendors that are all over AI and are using it to mitigate those threats as best you can. Great question. Gentleman with a fabulous head of hair at the back of the room. I'm very jealous.
Quick question on LLMs, proprietary versus open source. For those of us that are actually building on it today, the proprietary solutions are getting quite expensive already today. You talked about the cost earlier, and it's a very expensive endeavor to build on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
There's a lot of open source that are out there. They don't perform anywhere nearly as well if you look at specific areas, unless you're in a very narrow business case. What do you think is the future for those of us in business that are trying to leverage this? Where should we be thinking? Where should we be going with that that's cost effective to get us those results?
So it's a great question. It's a little bit how long is a piece of string, because the answer will depend on your business and what's important to you. If you're a financial services organization, then you probably want on-prem stuff. You may want to use open source because you want control over all of your data and you want control over the outcomes. And you may have, frankly, the money to be able to build your own facility. Because your choices are, so the gentleman's question is a great one. If you're going to go and build this stuff out in your company, do you use off-the-shelf AI, so a large language model that you're able to access from companies like Google or OpenAI or Anthropic, which charge you by the usage? There's a usage meter and then you just pay. And the prices aren't high. Or do you go open source, so you build your own? So that means you have to have your own infrastructure. It means you have to have people who manage it. It means you have to keep updating it yourself. So, it's sort of which is best for you. In theory, there are enterprise versions of these proprietary systems that mean that even if you share your data with them, they won't use it to train their next AI. You have to trust them that they're going to do that. In terms of cost, creating these models, we are moving to a point where training the next generation of models, just to train one model is going to cost $1 billion. And then it'll be $2 billion and $5 billion. What that means is it's going to become very difficult for the smaller companies to compete. At the moment, open source companies are between one and maybe, if we're generous, a generation behind the leaders who make these proprietary solutions. The differentiation between the open source players is not very great. They're all also RANs, and they're about to fight to the bottom on price. So if you're looking for a cost-effective solution, open source is probably the way to go, from Mistral and Smaug, and there's a bunch of other companies that do it, Stability. So you can get these models and just get the information and you build it yourself using their models. They're going to be a lot cheaper, and in the long term, the question is, it's a trade-off between cheaper now versus getting left behind and having to catch up and being outcompeted by my competitors who are using more powerful AI. So that's the ultimate calculation you have to make. It's a great question. All right, I know we're out of time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.